What if I was to tell you that one of the companies in Washington that attorney set up is a medical coding research company? What if I told you Obamacare was set up for one reason and one reason only, and that's to traffic children?
Is there anybody out there?
Obamacare. It's the only reason it was set up. What if I told you that they invested so much money, they built 3 supercomputers in the university in Austin, Texas, that a mother can go to her gynecologist, find out that she's pregnant, and the moment he puts in the code, the child traffickers are following that mother, their pregnancy. They know whether she's going to get an abortion, whether she has a live birth. They follow the kid through the first few years of school. They know if it's got blonde hair, blue eyes, or red hair, green eyes, or whatever. And what if they got blood type, DNA, all your medical records? So Obamacare coding system removed doctor-patient confidentiality from the United States and the world. Don't think it just happened here. It happened all over the world in every United Nations country when that was passed. We started it. So it's a 5-digit coding system with over 80,000 codes. We call it medical kidnapping in this country. I have parents that have walked into Phoenix Children's Hospital, and they can be up there talking to their doctor. Their doctor writes stuff down in his notes. He hands it to the medical coding expert in his office. She takes it, she puts it in the computer. CPS and the Superior Court of Arizona leases space in the basement of the hospital. A red flag pops up on the CPS agent's computer down there. She has every medical record, the home address, the parent's name, everything. She can cut, paste, put it on her documents, an order to remove, walk it next door to the judge, have him sign it, get in the elevator, be upstairs within 5 minutes taking the child. Whatever they want to think of. Yeah.
I heard they lease space in every hospital.
They do. Every hospital. The courts and CPS, every major hospital in the United States, they lease space. But let me tell you something. I'll tell you what they've told me. They told me all the evidence that we've turned in the last 3 years, it could take the military as long as 10 years just to take care of it.
I mean, why not? Sue me.
If you're having a bad day, just remember, it's your fault.
Seriously.
I'm not kidding.
It blew my brains. It was like, what?
Hey, thank you, Sensei. Thank you, Sensei. Thank you. God damn it. Viva la revolution!
The first video of his that really woke me up was the video he did on the
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see.
The first video of his that really woke me up was the video he did on the World Trade Organization protests in Seattle.
Yeah.
When he showed that there was these groups of masked men who dressed in military uniforms with military issue shoes. They all had the same shit on, and they all ran around in this peaceful protest for the World Trade Organization and started smashing things and lighting things on fire and creating chaos, which allowed the police to then move in. Then these people all holed up in one house. They negotiated with the police, and they were all released.
Weird.
Yeah.
Almost
so this
sounds
is
like
the
a
90s.
few events of the last couple years, you know?
Yeah. Well,
funny
it
how
sounds
that
like
works.
Patriot Front, which just went under. They
Yep.
went under the day
For
after.
real.
Yeah, you didn't
After
know?
USAID was cut?
No, right after Kash Patel gets in.
Okay.
When Kash Patel got
Let's go.
Pull that up.
Let's go.
Because there's a video of Patriot Front and me and Matt Taibbi. I go, they're feds. I go, it's me yelling, where's the fat people?
Yep.
They're all wearing the
I
same
saw that
uniform.
clip. I saw
One
that
guy's
clip.
got a fucking drum. Get the fuck out of here. These are feds.
Yep.
These are feds. The day after Kash Patel gets in, they disband.
Are you people insane? What are you talking about?
The time has come for one man to suffer in order to save hundreds of lives.
One man. What about two? Huh? What about six? How about public executions, huh?
Feel free to leave whenever you like, Agent Hubbard.
Come on, General, you lost, man. I've lost, man, but you can't do this. What if what they really want is for us to herd children in the stadiums like we're doing? And put soldiers on the street and have Americans looking over their shoulders, bend the law, shred the Constitution just a little bit. Because if we torture him, General, we do that and everything that we have bled and fought and died for is over. And they've won. They've already won.
What the hell happened to us? What happened to the American dream? What happened to the American dream? It came true. You're looking at it.
I'm the only one, but I'm the coldest one. This is
got my middle finger up with a cup and a Dutch split. Hand on my nuts when I'm wildin' out in public. Welcome to America. Motherfucker, welcome to America. My middle finger up with a cup and a Dutch split. Hands on my nuts while I'm wildin' out in public. Welcome to America.
I'm totally black-pilled. I'm black-pilled. It's over. The country's over. Your life is over. We're all going to die. It's over. Israel controls the country. Jews control the country. Everything's gay. Everything sucks. Star Wars sucks. Legos suck. McDonald's sucks. Chicago sucks. Traffic sucks. The mayor is black and sucks. It's over, dude. Pack it up. Pack up your shit. Get all your shit together. Pack it up. Get the fuck out. It's over. We're black-pilled. And we're waiting for Hitler to come back.
Professor,
What?
I think you should see this.
What is it? Is it titties? Is it, what? Is it pussy? What?
No.
Blue jean baby, LA lady, seems to swallow.
Help me, God! Help me, Allah! Ah!
Put your hands up. No.
Pirate's mind. You marry a music man. Ballerina.
These bankers are all part of a system called the Bank for International Settlements.
Most people, even in business and banking, don't understand this bank and its role as the BIS.
They own 40% of the assets of the 43,000 companies that are traded on the capital markets.
The bank runs itself. It has a board of directors which is composed of 15 governors of central banks from around the world.
And they pull down 60% of the annual earnings. They bought up all our media, and that media is hoodwinking citizens.
The media has morphed into just peddling the corporate interests of the money masters that control the political establishment. There's about 118 boards of directors that sit on these 5 giant media corporations. And they all serve different boards, of Monsanto to weapons to food. So when you have all these interests bleeding together, it's that much harder to differentiate what interests you're seeing laid out in the mainstream media.
Fair, balanced.
If you want to understand power, you have to understand who nominates candidates, not understand who votes for candidates. Our system is not a democracy. The percentage of our population that participates in the nomination process is literally less than 5% of the population, and really less than 1% of the population. If I was in control of the nominating process of everything that everybody ate, and I always nominated cheeseburgers or fried chicken, and I told you that it was a democracy and you could eat anything you want, as long as it was a cheeseburger or fried chicken. Would that be a democracy? I could sell it to you as a democracy because I don't decide whether to eat cheeseburgers or fried chicken. You get to vote in a very large and well-publicized election as to whether we're going with fried chicken or cheeseburgers. And people organize into very tribal groups, being very anti-fried chicken and very pro-cheeseburger, or they'll explain to you exactly why cheeseburgers are going to be the end of the world and why fried chicken's going to save you.
Yes.
You print money, and every time you print money, the value of the dollar goes down. So the value of the debt goes down. Just a theoretical thing. If you double the money supply and prices go up 50%, it doesn't work that way. But if you do that, the real debt goes down. So it's a theft, it's a tax, it's evil.
So you inflate your way out of it.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
World wars change worlds. And if you have a global agenda, then global problems allow you to offer global solutions. This is an agenda that's projected a long way forward. The Muslim world being brought into a war with the political Zionism, what today we call Israel, and that this would, you know, in my terms, create a vortex that would draw in the world, in our terms, America, the European Union, NATO, into this war. I mean, I know it's hard to believe for anyone frickin' sane. And then you've got what I've been saying now way back in the 1990s. The idea is for this Third World War to involve Russia and China against the West. Yeah. And what's opening up in the Ukraine, while all this is starting to go on in the Middle East, is another front against Russia. The United States is preparing for a war against Russia through Ukraine, and that what they plan is to try to take Crimea back. Saudi Arabia and Qatar, there are 51st states of the United States, there are many of those, mind, funding this ISIS and funding this terrorism, while the Americans, who could tell them to stop any time, are saying, are condemning the very terrorism that their 51st states are supporting. Well, the picture's so bloody obvious. It's a setup. When you look at it from this perspective, what is happening in the Middle East is not random. None of it's been random. Libya's not been random. Syria's not been random. None of it. And ISIS certainly isn't random. It's part of this long-term plan to take over the world by creating enormous chaos to which they can offer the order out of the chaos, their order, their new world order. When we realize that, we can see that events are not random, but coldly calculated. These people are sheer, undiluted evil. And people need to understand that, otherwise they will reject that anyone could do what they're doing and kill and maim and slaughter so many people. They can do it because they have no heart, they have no empathy, they have no emotional compassion, and thus mayhem is their currency, and they have no emotional consequence. They are not like us, so don't judge what they'll do by what you would do, because it ain't the same thing.
I was framed because I know the truth. The truth about a plot. A massive deception. By who? Well, there's a sinister plot in the works against the Jedi. I have proof of it. I can prove that everything that I know is true beyond a shadow of a doubt. The evidence, it's in here. It's in all of us. What is it? Organic chips built into our genetic code to make us do whatever someone wants. Even kill the Jedi. It's all in here.
Let's just get you some help first. Then we can review everything. It'll be okay, Frauds. We'll sort this out.
You don't believe me!
Brilliant.
I was not privy to my master's plan. But now I see it. He turned the Jedi's own army against
How do we go about approaching not filing or paying taxes this year? This is a very, very, very simple, and I'm going to put it to you just straight up, real easy, real quick. All right? You became a taxpayer when you signed your first 1040 form. You signed that form under the pains and penalties of perjury by voluntary compliance. You have to volunteer for that crap. There's nothing that says you have to be a taxpayer. There's no law. There's no statute. There's no code. They can't come after you for it. And when you do your revocation of election, don't you dare file your taxes after that. You've defeated the whole purpose. Let me tell you something. It's all fraud. It says Federal Reserve note. Federal Reserve note. You see the note? Everything you get, this is what we get paid in. Everything you get is a Federal Reserve note. A 1, a 5, a 10, a 20, a 50, a 100. Everything's a note. What is a Federal Reserve note? It's a debt or a debenture. You're already being paid a wage in a debt. You're a debtor. How does one pay a tax on a debt? Every time I ask the IRS that question, they run like hell. I asked them questions. I said, is the money that we're getting paid in, the Federal Reserve notes, are they a debt or a debenture? Yes or no? Well, is it a debt or a debenture? Yes or no? I'll ask them 3 times if I have to. Remember the rule of 3. Always. Remember the rule of 3. So this is a debt note. Can you pay a tax on a debt note? No. That's why it's by voluntary compliance and they can't force you to.
How about new, you crazy Dutch bastard?
Any of you don't know what the neurophone is, this was a device which was invented in the late 1950s. And the fellow that invented this was pretty smart because he figured out that you could transmit basically information in ultrasonic waves and encode, modulate the information, send it through transducers, piezo buzzers more or less, and the brain could intercept those frequencies directly bypassing the system of the ears to create the information because the brain can process it directly. The Russians did experiments with this and very powerful stuff if it's built right. Reportedly, the soldiers they tested this on, let's say they were going to use brainwaves because we all operate with brainwaves. Again, if you don't know about the brainwaves, I recommend you do a quick Google search and it's very easy to understand. There's a range, just like the frequency spectrum, that the brain operates as. Anything from full wakefulness to complete sleepiness to altered states of awareness. It's all dependent on, the shift of your brainwaves frequencies. So with that said, the Russians experimented with basically hypnotic type, sleepiness, trance kind of states, which would be around the 8 hertz range. So if they were able to modulate an 8 hertz tone and bypass the ear and even your consciousness and go right into the brain, what I'm getting at is this technology more or less forcefully forced a kind of PLL synchronization directly into the brain, and we were able to use then, believe it or not, technology. So what I'm getting at is a person didn't necessarily need to spend a lifetime learning how to meditate, how to get into a trance or anything like that. Not a few moments, but hours. They're into a state that they couldn't necessarily easily snap out of. The reason, hey, I could use the right channel of the sound card to create my ultrasonic carrier and modulate it with the left channel. Pretty simple, right? And use a transformer. Well, you know, at first I figured, you know, I was gonna do basically the AM way and use two separate neurophones and modulate it, but then it got really complicated and I was trying to emulate, you know, the features of brainwave entrainment, where on the left channel you have one frequency and on the right channel you have another frequency, and it's that difference that would entrain the brain to that frequency. But because now we're using modulations and ultrasonics, it changes the game a little bit and we could take some shortcuts, and that's where I figured, FM would come into handy. So to achieve, you know, what I'm looking after for the out-of-body experiences would be in this range here. So we use a simple sound card, like I said. So I calculated a carrier of 40 kilohertz, that's the right channel, and a modulation of 8 hertz, that's the left channel. So, and we're going to use FM, because what's going to happen is it's easier with FM because we don't have to do the whole audio thing, you know. So we use the R channel into the primary side and the piezo on the secondary side. Now the left channel, which is our modulation, plus goes into the plus of the piezo, and the piezo negative goes to the sound card negative. So we're wiring the transformer in a way that it couples. So we're doing frequency modulation, and because of this, we don't need the two frequencies that we normally have, that we would hear a tone that we can consciously hear. This will actually bypass the consciousness and get to the brain directly with this tone using FM and ultrasonics. As far as transducers, it's really nothing complicated. Here's my set right here. I've got a ribbon to go around the head here. I'm not going to wear it because it looks silly, but here are the transducers. It's just a mono setup. They're chained, they're bridged, and there's your piezo. This goes on the forehead and goes into the output right here.
We can create cybernetic individuals who, in just a few short years, will be completely indistinguishable from us. Which leads to an obvious conclusion. We are the gods now. I haven't been struck down. I'll take that to mean I'm right. We wield incredible power. The power to transform, to destroy, and to create again. The question, of course, before us is, what the hell are we supposed to do with this power? Or more importantly, one should ask, what are we allowed to do with this power? The answer to that, my friends, is nothing. Rules, restrictions, laws, ethical guidelines, all but forbidding us from moving forwards. Why are rules preventing us from feeding impoverished cultures? Well, where were the ethics during the Arabian conflicts? The answer to all these questions is simple. These rules exist because the people who created them were afraid of what would happen if they didn't. Well, I am not afraid.
Once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again using AI, in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection.
I guess I'll just kill myself, never mind.
The development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
20 years from now, AI will have changed things enough that, just this pure capitalistic framework probably won't explain much, because as AIs, both as sort of white collar type work and as blue collar work, as the robots will get good hands and are able to do the physical things that humans do, say working in a factory or construction, or we'll achieve that. Mm-hmm. And we'll have a lot of making the goods and services, which is we've always had a shortage of doctors, of teachers, of people to work in the factories, those shortages won't exist. And so it's a pretty profound change that will free up a lot of time. You know, you can retire early, you can work shorter work weeks, and it's going to require almost a philosophical rethink about, okay, how should time be spent? Because we don't need it to make enough food and make enough widgets and, do enough medical diagnosis. We will have created free intelligence.
Well, I tell you what, boys. Whenever somebody says they're doing one last job, that usually means their heart's not in it. Probably never was. But for me, well, I do this shit for the love of the game. A hefty price on the head of a man that fits the description of that fellow right there. Well, then I guess the only question is, are you? Oh, I'm you, sweetie. You just give it a little time.
Like the whole idea that like anti-Semitism is on the rise, like my basic PR advice would just be maybe stop blowing up children, Bibi Netanyahu, and see if it
certainly
decreases.
I'm
not an expert.
Not helping.
I'm not an expert.
Certainly not helping.
But I do think that where you think you see anti-Semitism, it may just be a humane response to children being blown up for like 2 years straight.
There should be a way to acknowledge that there's a human toll of that war that is, I think is becoming...
So I'm saying I'm not an expert.
No, of course. But I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I think the vast majority of people look at that situation and say, this is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's unsustainable. We're supporting it. We're funding it. It needs to end.
Right.
And, some people have caught more flack than others.
Well, he's dead, so...
You motherfucker!
Get it? Text a message, I don't know the number. Flexing on these niggas, every bone and muscle. Steady taking shots, never hurting them. Even then, y'all don't worry nothing. And I like to give a shout out to my niggas with the game plan. And shout outs on my niggas with escape plans.
There's clearly anti-Semites. There's clearly people that believe whatever, the Holocaust denial, whatever. There's clearly people on that side of the spectrum. But there are also people that are pointing out, a very real problem with, like you said, the massive
that was my
infanticide.
Crime. That was my crime. I mean, there's no way that you're trying to sell right now that I'm trying to free Harvey Weinstein, who gave more money to the ADL, who has me on a list, by the way,
right.
While he was alive, every Jewish cause he's given money to. And Steve Sarowitz and Justin Baldwin, these are all Ashkenazi Jews. They leave all that off the table because they're trying to conflate critique of Israel with just being Jewish, which is absurd. I certainly want to be clear. I literally don't care if you are going to call me anti-Semite because I've noticed a lot of kids are getting blown up. That's ridiculous. But there's also an entitlement that I've been trying to comprehend lately, because there are people who think that if you get called a name because you're Jewish, it's somehow like is this your first day on the internet? As soon as you are on the internet, when they figure out what you are, you're gonna get called the thing. Like every day I wake up, I log into Twitter, and I'm called the N-word. Like that's just like I've just come to it. Like that just has to happen because that's how the internet works.
Right.
And there are some people that are so fragile that like, when I say some people, I mean quite literally people that have texted me a screenshot of like a troll account, being like, "Look what this person said about Jews."
Right.
You're a 45-year-old man,
right,
who runs a satire business, Seth.
Right.
What are you, like, what is this? Have you never, is this your first day
Yeah,
on the internet? Do you know how many times
the
I've been
internet,
called?
yes.
Like, if you can't deal with that, you gotta log off. You know what I mean?
The internet is the internet.
Log off for a little bit,
Just
smell
take
some fresh air.
Yeah.
It's not real life. The internet is not real life.
Right.
I mean, could you imagine me?
I bet some of those children in Gaza would love to be called a name.
Right? If that's all they had to deal with, and they're acting like every day.
Just need a little bit of water.
Well, a town in Texas has over $4 million of its own local tax dollars being sent to Israel. When they audited their books and found this, the town of San Marcos decided to stop that aid. Now, Governor Abbott, Greg Abbott of Texas, says you actually can't do that. It's against the law. Now, Israel receives billions of dollars in federal aid from the United States government. This local government, for a small town of only 70,000 people, found that their residents were sending $4 million a year. And they said, we actually don't want to do that. We want to send that to our local schools, our fire departments, maintain our roads. And the state is saying, you cannot do that. You must continue to send that money to Israel. Now, this is not quite a cut and dry story. It's outrageous that the governor is saying, no, you need to keep sending your local tax dollars to Israel. And he has his own crazy reasons. But the bill was also a little bit strange, too. This is, again, a town of 70,000 people sending over $4 million per year to Israel instead of the local priorities that they wanted. They drafted a resolution to stop that. And Governor Abbott said, you can't do that because it's anti-Semitism. So they are obligated to send their money abroad to Israel. Here is his tweet about it. And then also he wrote the letter. He says that this is against state law. What law? Well, actually, there is a law in Texas that no government entity may enter into a contract worth $100,000 or more unless it includes a written verification that the entity does not boycott Israel and will not boycott Israel during their term. So this is basically an anti-BDS law on the books. The town, though, the resolution itself is a little above its britches. It's a bit crazy because the resolution of the town calls for a ceasefire negotiation in Gaza. How can a small Texas town do that? And it calls for Israel to remove itself from Gaza. Okay. Again, that's a little insane how a small town in Texas can do this. But what they want to do is try to reallocate their own money. And the governor is saying, no, you can't have your own local priorities. Now, this is not, again, a part of the BDS movement, which calls for boycotts of Israel. Congress did try to pass a law making it illegal to boycott Israel. That never became a law. But in fact, 38 states have anti-BDS laws on their books. State laws, these have not held up in court, but they have not been struck down either. So each state has these laws. 13 additional states want to put them on the books, even though more than 70% of Americans do not support anti-BDS laws, because we should be able to boycott whoever the hell we want to. That's our right. No government should tell us what we have to support and what we don't have to support. But again, that is currently the law in many states. There is a movement in Texas to repeal that. Who knows where that will go? Now, Abbott's logic is removing the aid as a boycott. That feels to me like a stretch. Clearly it isn't. The city just wants to use their own money for domestic priorities, like addiction, they say, education, and the governor is telling them they can't. So whether this goes to court, who knows? You would think that the city would have the right to say, we don't want to support just this one place. And as the governor saying, no, you have to support who I tell you to. Do they have to send money to every ally? No, just Israel. So it's pretty wild, don't you think?
Bend your knees and do a little hip hop. Just bend your knees and use your arms. Move them above your head. Just never keep them down to your side. Just keep them moving. Let's get back to the party.
I did drugs in my younger days. I tried them anyway. I did weed and mushrooms in college, but I drew the line in the sand when it came to the hard stuff.
You want to know what I'm good at? I'm good at killing people.
Macbeth is a murderer.
Yeah, well then I guess so am I, right? I mean, I've killed people.
Why'd you just say that?
People I take out, like, they're bad people. You know, like, they're pieces of shit. But lately, you know, I'm not sleeping and, like, depressed, feeling hard and back, you know? Yeah.
And yet some of my friends indulged. And lucky for us, we all came away unscathed. Most of us anyway, not all of us. The war on drugs was in full swing back then. It was the 80s, and a lot of people, thousands upon thousands, were locked up for a very long time for crimes that either aren't considered crimes today, or if they are, the sentences are a hell of a lot shorter. Case in point, Michael Edwards. In 1994, Michael was caught selling a spoonful of cocaine, less than an ounce, to an ex-girlfriend. And total cost of it was, I think, $850. But the ex-girlfriend had turned police informant, and Michael was arrested. Before the trial, Michael was offered a plea deal, 9 years in prison, but he turned it down because he was sure that he beat the rap. It was just a spoonful of cocaine, right? And then he was offered another deal, which was worse, 15 years in prison. So he turned that one down as well, opting for a trial. But at trial, Michael was found guilty. And when it came time to the sentence, they threw the book at him. 60 years in a Florida prison with no chance for parole. 60 years for a spoonful of cocaine.
With all of the money and fame, I still can't get my kids back. With all of the money and fame, I still don't get to see my children. Niggas see my Twitter, but they don't see how I be feeling. So I became a Nazi, yeah, bitch, I'm the nigga, how Hitler? Nigga, how Hitler? They don't understand the things I say on Twitter. Nigga, how Hitler? They don't understand the things I say on Twitter. All my niggas Nazis, nigga, how Hitler? Nigga, how Hitler? Nigga, how Hitler?
That warms my heart, particularly as a black man.
666. Maybe we tripping. You know what I'm saying? So I just try. I don't even talk to people much because I don't want them to think that I'm crazy. But this can't be by accident. It can't be, right?